All right. We are live on Chewy's Road to Enlightenment, and I have my guest Brandon Furches on with me.
Hi,
Hello, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you.
No sarcasm in that fantastic either.
No, not at all.
Yeah, life is good.
Yes, sir.
How you been?
Oh, great. How's your day?
My day has been wonderful. It's even better now that we're doing this.
Oh, I see why we're at a dead stop.
You're on the road right now.
Yeah. Heading back to Cape Cod. I was actually out in your neck of the woods. We had to come out to Robert's Manufacturing today in Springfield. And now I'm heading back to the Cape and just admiring all the people who ran out of town, left lane wrecked. That's why we were sitting in this bumper to bumper traffic, and I'm coming at you from the road.
Never a dull moment in Massachusetts.
No, no, sir.
Well, we're gonna get right into this thing.
Perfect.
Let's talk about where are you from originally?
So I lived in Western Mass the majority of my life. I was born in Westfield. My adolescence was raised in Springfield. I currently live on Cape Cod. I moved out here about 3 years ago.
Okay.
2.5, 3 years ago. And I live out here with my girl, and we share our boys together. And it's great.
Fantastic. And we're gonna get into a little bit. So let's talk about growing up in Westfield, Springfield. I know your grandfather was a huge influence in your life.
Definitely.
Let's talk about your grandfather for a minute.
Yeah, for sure. So my grandfather owned a dealership in Westfield, used car and rental place. It was called Fenton Leasing. It was an old building that they had purchased and renovated. It was a pool factory that turned into a dealership like sometime in the 70s. And my family's lineage with automotive goes way, way back in the city of Westfield. My great-great-grandmother was the first female auto dealer in the U.S., Catherine Isabel Fenton. She's in the Henry Ford Old Timers Hall of Fame in Detroit, Michigan. And, my whole family kind of ran with that automotive legacy, throughout their lives. And that dynasty essentially ended with my grandfather. He had a dealership in Westfield that I grew up behind. There was 4 condo units, and I lived next door to him.
Yep.
So when my mom and dad were still together, we were his neighbor. So I was just fully immersed in all things automotive from a very, very young age.
And still are.
Yeah. Unfortunately, some days, right?
Yeah.
No, for the most part, it's a great thing. Pretty decent community.
Yeah. Well, it's like anything else. You have the plus side and the negative side, and such is life. That's the balance. You gotta balance out all the bullshit with all the good stuff. So
Absolutely.
it is what it is.
I not to sidestep, but man, I wish that there was a visual component here where you could have seen my view. So I told you before this started, I was dead stop bumper to bumper traffic on the Pike.
Mm-hmm.
Some guy had this tiny little landscaping trailer that was 1,000% home built, and he must have run out of town right, and capsized this fucking thing and scattered it across 3 lanes of the Mass Pike. He's having a real bad day. Definitely would have been a good sight to, not a good sight to see, but an entertaining one.
Like sloppy mechanics built, or way worse.
Oh my god, dude! It was every piece of discount lumber from Lowe's just scattered from one side of the highway to the other.
That's nice. Enjoy the yard sale, motherfuckers.
Yeah. So if you're currently traveling, what's that, east on I-90, good luck.
And we all know the joys of traveling on I-90. It's just a wonderful highway to commute on and engage with fellow motor enthusiasts.
Oh, absolutely. Now I shared somebody else's misfortune for the day.
That's right.
Yeah. Yep.
So Westfield, your grandfather, very deep lineage with automotive automotive.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, like what my day would look like was, either get up and go to school or get up and go in the garage. Like it was one of those two things.
So your grandfather, he kept the car thing. You definitely kept it going. I mean, I know you were working at PVTA for a while as a mechanic.
Right. Yeah. Worked on the city buses. That was like my second or third gig. I worked at Toyota for a while. I worked at Circuit City back when that was still a thing.
Yeah, back when you can go to a radio store.
Right. Right. We could set you up with those subwoofers.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I want my windows to blow out, please. Thank you.
Exactly. Or remote start the shit out of your car.
And go ahead and add some underglow, please. Thank you. You
But,
you know you were
yeah,
guilty.
yeah, no, definitely been at it for a long, long time, as you know.
So we're gonna keep it with the car thing for a minute, just because we're talking about that. So yeah, you were doing the PVTA, and when I met you, that's where you were working over at. I
Yep.
think we've known each other probably close to 15 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Yeah, and then you opened up a performance shop.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, I did.
Yes.
So, little backstory on that. Like, so the one thing that everybody asked me, especially the people who knew, like, loosely knew of my grandfather and my family, everybody asked, like, why I didn't just carry on with his business and keep that whole thing going.
Yep.
I definitely would have liked to. I had an interest in it for sure. And as you know, and I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit later, like I was very involved in this business prior to starting my own. But family members passing have a funny way of muddy. It didn't become clear who, if anybody, would continue that business as a managing partner, what would happen to the assets, and that was its own big debacle. But that was kind of seeing the direction that was trending was one of the big motivators for me to just kind of go out on my own and start my own thing. And and me and my grandfather were interested in two very different aspects of the business. Like, he enjoyed the thrill of the sale, and I much more enjoyed, the thrill of going fast and making things.
Yeah, making shit fucking fast.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't super interested in selling Chevy Malibus, but I was very interested in running single digits.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hobby became passion was hobby, and hobby's now work.
So let's talk a little bit about because we got to mention the Monte Carlo. Oh, the
which one?
Well, let's talk about. So you had the first vision with the front wheel drive LS4 swap Monte Carlo, the gray car.
You want me to go like way back?
Let's take this back to the beginning.
All right. So I have had an unhealthy obsession with the 2000 to 2005 body style Monte Carlos, like since their inception. So my grandfather's got this little dealership. I was out there all the time. He would still get new car literature from GM. And sometime in '99, he got a poster of the new redesigned Monte Carlo for 2000. And it had Tasmanian Devil and like the black SS Monte Carlo. And I just thought it was like the coolest thing ever. Like, as soon as I saw that poster, I knew I wanted to have one. So in 2005, when I graduated from high school of science and technology in Springfield, my grandfather's graduation present to me was he found me a Monte Carlo that I could afford. So at the time, I was only 5 years old. It was a 2000 Monte Carlo. It was an LS, so it had a naturally aspirated 3.4. And what we did was he bought me a plane ticket because he had a condo down in Fort Lauderdale, which was close proximity to where he found the car.
Yep.
So he flew me down to Florida. He picked me up at the airport. And his Monte Carlo, because he had a white 2000 SS, brought me to pick up my new car, and then we drove back from Florida to Massachusetts together and our matching cars. So that was like 18-year-old me's like little feel-good story and having a nice little road trip with my grandfather.
Yep.
So fast forward to many years later, I had several Monte Carlos after that. I did not keep that car like an idiot. Sometime in 2008, I was working at Toyota Scion. I decided I needed a Scion, so I traded that Monte Carlo in. Instantly regretted it, and I think within 14 months, I had another one. I had a supercharged one. So, I mean, there's always been a Monte Carlo, like, in my adult life. So, fast forward a little bit to the gray car that you started to touch on, did you know that was an accidental purchase?
No, I don't think we ever talked about that.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
Atlanta?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me now?
I can. You're loud and clear. Yeah, let's talk about that accidental purchase.
Oh,
I can hear you.
Sam.
He's en route, and I knew there was going to be some issues with connection. Go ahead.
Hi, welcome to Chewy's Road to Enlightenment.
Hey, is this Brandon Furches from Furches Performance?
Something like that.
All right.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your answer. Did you know that was like an accidental purchase?
I knew somewhat of the backstory, but not the entire. Let's go ahead and get right into that.
All right. So, 2013, right? Year my dad passed away, was also the year that I opened my first shop. So I was over in Springfield. I was over in Indian Orchard. I had a small little 3.5 bay. It was like 3 days with a loading dock. And I was just doing, all the young entrepreneurial stuff and setting myself up with my wholesale accounts and figuring out who I was going to buy from. And, all the fun that comes with that, right?
Yep.
So I started an account with Copart, which for those of you who don't know, Copart is like a national insurance salvage auction. So you can buy like, shit that was recovered theft or smashed or floods. I mean, every, when your car gets totaled, that's where it goes to Copart to die. And some idiot like me comes along and buys it. So I was browsing through the inventory and I saw that there was what appeared to be a really nice Monte Carlo in the South Boston lot. So I set my bid at $500 and I forgot all about it. I had like 2 weeks before it went up for auction. So it was a Friday. I was at my shop, got a notification on my phone that I was a high bidder and I didn't know what I was a high bidder on. I realized I had bought myself a Monte Carlo.
Thank you.
So I won that car for $500. By the time you pay all the fees, the gate fee, the online bid fee, and everything, it was probably closer to $800. And I sent somebody down there to pick it up. So guy went down there and he called me. We really had no idea what we were getting because it was sight unseen. But it was one of the few times I actually came out with an awesome purchase. The car only had 23,000 miles on it. It had like virtually no damage. It had like one dent on the rear quarter panel, and it was a recovered theft out of Gardner, Mass.
Nice.
So, I accidentally purchased this like cream puff, and the logical thing to do would have been clean it up and sell it because it was a pretty valuable piece at the time. But of course, I can't leave anything alone. I really like those cars, so that was the very first one that I LS swapped. I transplanted an LS4 from a later generation Monte Carlo into it. And that's when I developed the Cadillac transmission swap to go with it. And as you know, that's been a big hit. We'll talk more about that.
Yep.
But yeah, that car was basically the proof of concept for my swap. And very, very first time out with that car at Lebanon, and like, it was, it was done well, but we hadn't made any of the progress in terms of like product development compared to where we are now. I mean, we're really just throwing our feet to the fire to see what would happen. And very, very first pass out, that car went 11.00 for money. It upset the previous record holder for front wheel drive LS4 and a W body. And that, I would say that car was probably the biggest catalyst for everything we've done and where we've landed, today.
Yep. And is that car still around?
It is still around. So it was sold to one of my clients. And he is actually going to be putting it back to like a little bit more of a street car. It was a little bit too racy.
Yep.
It needed a full exhaust instead of exhaust out the bumper.
Yeah.
And obviously the catalog of parts has come a long way since then. So yeah, now that I'm, on my road to recovery here, when we jump back into that thing, we're going to make it a little bit more modern with, all the stuff we've learned since then, all the stuff we've learned in the past 10 years already.
Yep. Yeah, dude, I know, time flies, huh?
It's crazy to think about that. Like, we reset that record 10 years ago. I mean, as you know, we've gone much faster than that since then. And nobody has done anything with that since. Like, it's boring out here. Somebody listen to this. Give me some competition. Like,
yeah, somebody build something. Somebody build something fast.
I make all the parts, so you can do it too. Come on.
Yep, check them out.
Yeah.
What platform are you? Do you want? I mean, now's a good time if you want to throw a quick plug in on your business.
Yeah, definitely. So it's just LS4 Kingman. We do everything W body related. It started off as like an adventure of let's see how fast we can go with these Cadillac trannies that are worth nothing. And the cars have gotten quicker and faster over the years. The last car with a 72 millimeter turbo on it, that thing went 1020 at 138 mile an hour back to back. And that was full blown street car. We had full leather interior, air conditioning, heated seats. And it was still very much so wrong wheel drive. The new build we've got going on now is definitely raised the bar from where we were previously a couple of years ago. So I'm fully anticipating single digit passes out of it.
Nice. Yeah, the green car was fun.
Oh, yeah, it was like,
yeah,
it was hands down like the best street car I've ever put together. It was just so much fun.
Yeah, unlimited burnouts.
Right.
Smiles on everybody's face.
Like, you and I could jump in it. We can go to Starbucks and, just sit there and shred tire all day, but it still went to the track and performed really, really well. Like,
yeah.
Oh, and can we note that we didn't tow the car to the track and run 1020s. We drove an hour and a half from Springfield in 95-degree weather just to get off the highway and click off those numbers and drive it home. Yeah,
that's the beauty of that car and what you're doing. It's like
right.
You have a purpose-built race car, but it's also like, hey, I'm going to go drive,
Right.
I mean, it's
and you know how it is with how invested you are with the Mustang community. It's like your son would be a great example, right? Like, your kid wants to go out, if he wants to get into a Mustang, he can't do it affordably. Like, there's no clean shells out there to start with that are reasonably priced for a young kid that wants to get into automotive stuff. And the same's true for Camaros and
yep.
Mopar stuff's even worse. So, like, that's why the W body stuff is always, say what you want. Big deal. It's front wheel drive. Get over it. Like, it's a good, affordable way for people to get into the hobby and have something that's unique and reliable and performs well and looks cool. It checks a lot of boxes.
Yep.
It just gets overlooked because it spins the front wheels instead of the back. That's it.
Yeah, and people always people are quick to judge. Especially they see a car like that front wheel drive, like, oh Jesus, like, what the hell, really? And then you go for a ride, or you get to go down the track in it, and you're like, holy shit, this is next level. This is not just a 195 horsepower; it's 784 horsepower. And that's kudos on that build. That was awesome. That was a fun time. Being down the old shop there and being there for that. That was good stuff.
Yeah, I definitely miss that spot sometimes. We had a lot of fun there.
Yeah, I don't think McDonald's misses you,
Right,
and
right.
the surround.
Yeah, or just the town of Ludlow in general, but that's fine.
Yeah, they probably don't miss you. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was always, yeah, doing the burnouts in the parking lot there while people are working on their stuff and hanging out, and it's like just watching the smoke billow over to the drive-through window at McDonald's, and I'm like, oh my god, those poor sons of bitches inside, because it reeked of rubber inside the restaurant.
You know what's wild about that place? I was there 3 years, and like, if we went 2 consecutive days back to back of not just absolutely annihilating the tires on something from one end of the parking lot to the other, like that was a rare. Like, but they never said a thing ever, ever. We never had one visit from the police. They never came over and said anything next door. And I mean, like, I don't even know how to explain this to the people who are listening in and aren't familiar with the place. But like, what we must have had a 200-foot long driveway that ran parallel to their takeout windows.
Yes, and you could definitely build boost in a turbo car and do launches there
Oh yeah, you just
successfully.
two-step flames pop out of the hood and then just roll a big smoker from one side of the parking lot to the other, and like, it's just dinner and a treat for those fine people picking up their McChickens. Like, that was a nice little setup we had.
And maybe because too, like, there were a bunch of young kids over there working, so I'm sure they were pumped seeing that kind of stuff going on. I mean,
Right.
I know.
Just enough recklessness on private property to keep everybody content.
Yeah, we like to party over here just a little bit, not a lot, just a little. Though that was
My new place. I got neighbors. I haven't done one burnout because I'm trying to be respectful.
yeah, and now you have to, you're in a much more updated building, nice and clean. Yeah, I mean the other place, it had its advantages and disadvantages, should I say?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That is
Sometimes
very true.
sometimes the roof would just start leaking.
Like every time it rained.
Yeah, like, yeah,
Heck,
oh yeah. My guy's gonna come fix that. Your guy hasn't fixed it though. It's still leaking water everywhere.
Oh my God! I forgot about the first time you met that guy. We gotta save that. That's a whole other episode one day.
Yes. His beautiful maintenance on his oil burner. That was the first time I ever seen an oil burner put on a cinder block, and removable while it's still running, to clean and access. That was
Remember in Home Alone when he goes in the basement and the fucking boiler's like talking to him?
Yes, that was the boiler.
The actual model.
Yes, yeah, it was probably 1920s. Very very original.
All the steam.
So yeah, we'll fast forward a little. So you got out of that shop. Then your life kind of took a turn. You had
Actually, so it was still in that shop.
okay, you were still there.
Yeah. All right. So, we talked a little bit about the first Monte Carlo, the gray one. You brought up the green chameleon-y colored one.
Yep.
And that's one actually you stepped in and helped out big time with that. So that car was getting like a ton of publicity, ton of recognition. A bunch of like digital media magazines had picked up the content. They were running with it. And you had reached out to Steve Mignante.
Yep. Shout out to Steve.
And mentioned to him. Yep. And mentioned to him that we had this like pretty cool little thing going on that might be interested in checking it out. And he was all for it, right?
Yeah, Steve's a good. I got to get him on here at some point because he's got some crazy fucking stories, and he's just a good dude. He is a good dude.
Oh, absolutely, and everything he's seen for sure.
Yeah, he was definitely engaged with that project. Like,
Right.
he loved that. That was right up his alley. And him and I had talked about it, because he had brought up his Chevette with the 502 Caddy motor in it.
Right.
And he was like, yeah, this is like right up my alley. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And like, what a nice guy. What a humble guy too.
Yeah, and yeah, you
Um,
can still see him. Barrett Jackson, he's a host on Barrett Jackson. He's on the stage. Guy with the glasses on that knows absolutely everything about any car. I don't think there's a vehicle or make or model that he doesn't know about. Just an
oh,
encyclopedia,
absolutely. Yeah,
encyclopedia of
walking
automotive.
encyclopedia. Yeah, for sure.
Um, so yeah, so things kind of got a little crazy for you there with the car, and
Yeah, so that car, well, he came out like February. Came out February 19. It was like early in the year. It was definitely cold. There wasn't snow anymore. Um, and he came out, wrote up the article, took him for a ride in the car. He sent out the photographer shortly after, and that was slated to be the cover car of Carcraft magazine for the August of 2019 issue. So I know you and I were like super patiently waiting for that issue to come out.
yep,
And during that time frame, the year before, like 2018, I lost my grandfather. So my grandfather passed away in May of 18. We were still kind of riding this roller coaster with the business. It was still a very new business. Things were up and down, but we were getting some good publicity. So like you set up this whole meeting with Steve Bignante, and that was like super cool. And we were like patiently waiting for this magazine article to drop, right? So June of that year, I got a phone call from my grandfather's estate, the managing party that was taking care of all of his assets. And, the white Monte Carlo I told you about at the beginning of this, that he had picked me up from at the airport that we drove back together cross country, he still had that car when he passed.
yep.
And that was the only thing I wanted from his estate. I didn't give a shit about anything else or the infighting between family members. Like, all I wanted was that. So the estate ran it by the other interested parties. They attached a number to it, and I was able to secure the vehicle in June of 19. End of June, I took delivery of it. So, I was like riding this high, right? It's now we're into the month of July. Magazine's coming out next month. I got my grandfather's car, so I had like a little piece of it. Business was going pretty good, so like everything was looking very optimistic. And then August 15th, that all changed. I was actually on my way to Munson, and I almost never took that Monte Carlo out. Like, I only took it out if I was like running errands or, well, not running errands, only if it was like a nice day and I was going somewhere and I wanted to drive it.
Yep.
So I slapped the dealer plate on the car, took it to Munson. I was heading up to AG Designs where he was manufacturing some of the parts at the time. And, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, super beautiful day. I remember windows are down, clear as could be. And I was on a section of Route 32 where, you can see for a while, like probably a mile and a half long stretch of just straight 2-lane road. And at the last possible moment, this woman who was coming head on towards me in a Honda CRV, she just drastically veered into my lane. I had nowhere to go. I swerved to the right as hard as I could, but there was a little guardrail. I actually tagged it trying to get away from her. But she hit me head on, ripped the front suspension right out of the car, like clean off. There was no wheel in the front, dropped it right down on the subframe. And we landed, it was like 184 feet apart. I knew I was hurt. I knew like something felt funny in my leg, but I didn't know like what the extent of my injury was. I just knew the car was smoking really bad and like I had to get out. So the windows were down, door was fucking smashed. There was no way I was getting out the driver's side. So I crawled up over the console, and as I came out the passenger side window of the car, this guy was approaching me. Like, come to find out later, it was somebody in the Munson Fire Department, plainclothes, who just happened to be coming down the road. And he could see like there was some deformity near my leg, and he was trying to tell me like, don't get up, but I was concerned about the woman who hit me. So I tried to jump to my feet to run over and check on her because I didn't see anybody get out of that vehicle. And I realized that my leg was really, really bad. I had severed the tib and fib in half. So internally there was nothing keeping the leg together, like, halfway down below the knee.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that was keeping it together was skin, So I knew at that point I was out of the fight, and I just sat at the curb and tried to collect myself and patiently wait for, the EMTs and the rest of the rescue people who came through. The woman who hit me, never met her, never talked to her. I honestly don't even know what she looks like. I just saw a silhouette of her as she hit me. But it's my understanding she walked away from the accident with minor or no injuries, which is great. Thank God for that. Unfortunately, that wasn't the same for me.
Mm-hmm.
I had very substantial damage to my right leg. That, as you know, that definitely turned my life upside down. Starting on that day in 2019.
And so you were in the hospital for a bit. I know I came up and saw you when you were up there. And
Yeah. So the first go around was 2.5 weeks, and that sounds like a long time. It definitely is. It's a long time to be in a hospital, but the primary reason was just there was so much damage that they really couldn't do anything. They had to let all the swelling and inflammation go down before they could even operate. So I think it was 14 days before the first surgery. Then I was discharged for about 2 weeks, and then they brought me back in for the second reconstructive surgery. So in the course of 45 days, there was 2 surgeries with 3 plates and 26 fasteners they put in there to hold the leg back together.
And then things seemed to be going okay, but then got bad again, right, with the leg?
Yeah, so that whole period of my life was like just absolutely bananas, right? So, that happened at the end of 19. The recovery was very expensive. They told me early on that I was going to have very limited range of motion on the right-hand side. Running, hiking, all those things were never out of the question. And I mean, as you know, like, even walking on grass was difficult. Like any uneven surface,
Yep.
was just very challenging. And then, kind of the icing on the cake was, 2020 rolling into COVID, right? So I was still very fresh in my recovery, but like nobody knew what they were doing. Protocols were changing daily. You needed to be tested to go to PT one day, then masks and all this other stuff. I mean, everything that we endured during that whole time period.
Yeah.
That really complicated things. But because so many of us were home, obviously we couldn't go out like we used to. Workloads were much smaller. So, like, even though it was challenging, having that limited mobility, it didn't really show its true colors and like how prohibitive it was, just because there were so many activities that we couldn't do for a year and a half.
Yep.
So I think it's kind of funny. Like, I think if you look at the deterioration of my situation, like it definitely was on the tail end of COVID when things started opening back up and I was more active and I could go places and, on top of working long hours on a concrete floor in a labor intensive industry. And, unfortunately, I don't know what set the dominoes in play, but, sometime in the end of 20, beginning of 21, the hardware started to get infected. And Christ, I mean, I lost count of how many surgical interventions they did. As you know, the first big one was they had to pull all the hardware out. They thought everything had healed enough and was stabilized enough that they could safely remove the hardware and try to get the infection out of my bone. And they thought they were successful, but it was just, God, I had a lot of details I don't want to bore you with, but
No,
it was just
no.
very challenging time frame. Because like every time we thought that we would see light at the end of the tunnel, there was just another setback, like another bout of infection or questionable fluid accumulation. And, on top of the medical intervention that it required to correct those issues, I mean, just not knowing whether I would wake up and be able to walk that day was like the mental impact of that was significant. So, a lot of things took a back seat during that time period of my life. A lot of relationships were affected. My work life was certainly affected. It was just, there wasn't a lot to be optimistic about during that time. Like, so anytime you sustain an injury, like, you want to get better. You don't want to progressively get worse and just have like this slow deterioration, if that makes sense.
No, no dude, I know. I don't know the extent, but I know where you're coming from with that. Like, yeah, you have, and I think as people that are kind of driven, I mean, or we're driven. I'm not going to say kind of. We're driven people. Like, we strive for, we want the best, and we want things a certain way. When things don't go your way, it's almost like you take two steps back after taking two steps forward.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that was always, for myself, and I know, I could probably speak for you on this, like one of the hardest things, because it's like, okay, I need to be here by this date, and this is what I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to have, this is where I'm going to, after that's done, I'm going to have this, because you like having a game plan, or, as much of a game plan as you can, and, trying to execute it. And, yeah, I just, challenges come up and things change.
Right. And like, what I think one of the most frustrating things for me is, like, I'm a very mechanical person, right? I'm very much so, oh, if that's broken, then we're going to fix it. If they don't have the parts to fix it, we'll make the parts to fix it, right? Like, so that's how I'm wired. That's how my brain works. So, when I initially had this injury, I was like, whatever, big deal. Like, if Anderson Silva can wrap his leg around somebody in the cage, like, I can have a little car accident. They'll put the shit back together,
Yep.
Say nothing. And, I think, like, kind of, I don't know, call it whatever you want, call it being naive, call it being ignorant, but, like, I really carried that for, like, the first year. I was like, this fact, they were very straightforward with me, and they told me, hey, you're not going to run again, hey, you're not going to climb again, hey, you're not going to do all this shit. But I was like, yeah, I don't know what they're talking about. Medicine's come so far, right? Well, at the end of the day, you got broken pieces. There's only so many different ways that they can put them back together. And, like, I don't hold any ill will towards my original surgeon or the original medical team that worked on me. They did a great job on fixating things, and gave me as much time with that leg as they could. They did everything in their power to save it. But, like,
yep.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up. It's easy to get caught up and think that, like, the best on the situation and that things are just going to work out. And I think that's why it was even harder to navigate it when things got complicated and they didn't go according to at least the plan in my head, because I was like, I didn't think I was going to make a full recovery, but I thought I was going to be way better than what I was,
Yep.
And it was funny because, like, I would actually bring things up like that. I'd be like, well, this isn't that uncommon of a break. Like, here are examples of points in history where other famous people have experienced that and they've come out the other end.
Yep.
But you can't compare your situation to somebody else's because you don't know the extent of damage internally. Like, my thought process wasn't too far off. I was concentrating on the tib and fib that were, like, severed in half. I was like, yeah, you put that back together, it's good, right? Well, like, my issue and the reason why I had so much complication was lower than that. It was actually the entire ankle. Because, like, during that accident, I must have tried to jump on the brake pedal at some point. Just all that force just came up through my foot.
Mm-hmm.
That energy had to go somewhere. So,
yeah,
on the path of least resistance, which in my case was the ankle, the tib, and the fib.
Yep, took them all out.
Right. Yeah, so it was a rough couple of years, plagued by complication and multiple surgeries. And I think the tipping point for me was the winter of 21. That was, like, the last real bad batch of infection I had gotten. And you remember we were talking at the time. I had basically to back up a little, what had happened was I had a flare up. My ankle used to swell up, massive. So it would be huge. So that was just a typical everyday progression. I would get up, go to work as long as I could, which was like somewhere in the vicinity of 10 to 12 hours, literally to the point where I couldn't walk anymore. And then I would go home, let the swelling go down overnight, and I would start it all over the next day. Well, that routine was broken because for a couple of days the swelling didn't go down. And when I finally went to the hospital, there was a huge fluid collection. So they do this thing called like an ultrasound guided drain. Quite literally ultrasounding the ankle. They look for the fluid pocket. They extract it with a needle. It's not very intrusive, and then they send that fluid out to be cultured, determine whether or not it has any bacteria in it.
Yep.
So they had cultured that fluid. They determined that there was a bug in there. They were concerned about sepsis and infection again. And they scheduled a surgery for another debridement, another cleaning out of the ankle joint. So the surgery was like 2 weeks out. They couldn't like facilitate it for 2 weeks, and they were comfortable leaving me on IV medication. So I was on vancomycin and ceftriaxone, which are like, those two antibiotics are like two wicked heavy hitters, and they also cross into a variety of other antibiotics, like other antibiotics in various families.
Yep.
So they're far-reaching. Well, what happened was they gave me a PICC line. So the PICC line presents like an IV. You got like a little port coming out of your arm.
Yeah.
But it actually goes through one of your main lines all the way to the heart. So when you hook up the medication, it's actually introducing the medication to your heart, which then gets pumped in through the rest of your body. So 3 times a day, I had to administer this IV medication at home for 2 weeks. And they were in these little medicine balls. They would just slowly collapse. Medicine would go into my system. So everything was going fine with that, aside from being a massive inconvenience, as you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the morning of the scheduled surgery, Kat and I were driving into Boston, and I was just looking down at my arms, and I started developing this crazy rash. Like, that's weird, I'm fair skinned, but and it just kept spreading, and no bullshit. About an hour, maybe a little over an hour, that rash had spread to my entire body, and what they determined, they ended up rushing me into surgery. They determined I had what's called DRESS syndrome. And DRESS syndrome is a smoldering, hyperallergic reaction to one of those two medications in question. And, it attacked my liver, it attacked my kidneys. It's a serious disease, 10% mortality rate. It's a very serious reaction. And I was just fortunate that I happened to be going to the hospital that much anyways, because I don't know, I necessarily would have rushed to the hospital for a rash.
Right.
But that whole experience and the 2 weeks in the hospital that followed that was kind of like, that was enough at that point. Like, I think collectively by then I had 7 surgeries on that leg. Not counting like outpatient procedures. And that's when I linked up with Dr. Carty in Boston from Brigham and Women's, and we started having real serious conversations about what an amputation would look like, so that I could get my life back. But yeah, that whole situation in the winter of 2021 was definitely what kind of pushed me over the edge to pursue this.
And then you had your lower half of your right leg amputated.
Yeah. It was a process. It definitely does not happen overnight. So the program I'm in was a research initiative. Dr. Carty has pioneered this procedure called the Ewing amputation. So fun fact, aside from Dr. Carty's procedure, amputation and the procedure of amputation has not changed since the Civil War.
Oh, wow.
You would think that there would be drastic you would think there would be some like drastic improvements by now, but there is not. So Dr. Carty's approach is a little bit different, and I'll just give you a little bit of the technical aspect of like what that looks like. So in a normal amputation, the muscles, ligaments, the bone is all quite literally cut. A skin flap is left, it's pulled over, it's sewed shut, and you're left with a residual limb.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is over time, muscle atrophy sets in, and the limb just slowly shrinks, and it becomes fairly irrelevant. You have a prosthetic that you can strap onto it, you can load weight through it, but aside from that, it serves no, I don't want to say no function, but no function in terms of sensory feedback, right?
Yep.
It's there, it's there, but it doesn't do anything,
yep.
right? So this procedure that Dr. Carty established in collaboration with MIT is called the Ewing amputation, named after James Ewing, who was the first recipient. And basically what they do in my application, where, I'm a below knee amputee, they take the muscle pairings that are responsible for all your ankle movement. So dorsiplantar inversion, eversion. And they actually reconnect those muscles. So instead of just being snipped and not going anywhere, they're now interconnected. So it's kind of like completing an electrical circuit.
Right? Okay, yep.
Instead of having two wires that are individual of each other, they're now connected and they share that signal. So when I think about moving my phantom ankle, if you will, at the tip of my residual limb, you can actually see the muscles contract, and you can see my stump actually move a little bit because the muscles inside are still doing what they would do if I had a foot in place. It's an agonist-antagonist motion. So one muscle group will pull the foot, the foot in quotation marks up and down, and then in and out. And right now, that is vastly irrelevant with the current technology that's available. But within the next 7 to 10 years, excuse me, there will actually be prosthetics that can take advantage of that neurological connection, and you can control them. You can control the prosthetic just like it is your natural foot.
Wow.
I've been very fortunate to see it, in action at MIT through my participation in some of their studies. And it's wild, man. It's wild to look down at a robotic device that's like mounted to a wall and think about moving it and watch it move, like with a fairly impressive level of control. Think about it like if you wanted to step on an accelerator pedal and somebody told you to just give the gas pedal like 30%, like you can do that. It's wild. It's wild to look down and watch it happen.
So hopefully in 7 to 10 years, they have something for you.
Yeah,
where you'll be.
It's like it's cool, and I think it'll suit a lot of people. I don't know that it's right for me, but having used it in lab in its current configuration, like I definitely prefer a mechanical foot. But that's also because a lifestyle about parts, right? Like, even if they had one of those bionic devices that I could take out of lab, I feel like I would just destroy it in a short period of time.
Yeah.
The pure mechanical ones are a little bit more robust for somebody with my activity level.
And so you're testing out a new product right now, right? I know we were talking about that the other day.
Yeah, man, this thing is really, really cool. There's a company called BioDapt. So they develop prosthetic knee and feet for people who are into extreme sports. So snowboarding, skiing, skateboarding. And then they have like a line of feet called like the Versa foot that's intended for people who want to like deadlift and they need that stimulated ankle. So this company's been great to deal with. They were kind enough to send my prosthetist a demo unit. I'm actually wearing it right now. And this thing is like badass, especially for like a car nerd like myself, because it's like it's got an adjustable shock, so I can dial in that rebound and that compression.
Yeah, that's
It's just
awesome.
a really cool looking piece.
It's user friendly.
Yeah, and it's comfortable. That's the biggest thing. That's comfort as an amputee is a hard thing to come by sometimes. So having a device that you don't want to rip off and throw across the room is definitely a plus.
So let's talk. So I know you had said that this device is on loan to you, right? You're like it's like you get to try it out and see how it works.
Right. Yeah, it's a demo unit.
And so what does it take to get this in your possession? What do you have to do? What are the
Dude, that is my biggest gripe as an amputee. So I apologize to any of your listeners in advance if they work in the field, but like, fuck medical device companies. You know, this is going to be hard for like some of the people who listen to your podcast to like follow along in, because I know that you have people from like all walks of life.
yeah, but they're going to connect
down
with
to like production, right? Like designing a product, bringing it to life. Pretty well versed in that. I got a good idea from the motorsports industry of what it takes, as I develop my stuff quite regularly. But the moment you tack medical device onto whatever you are manufacturing, all of a sudden the price goes up exponentially. And that's what I've found through this journey of prosthetic technology. Is like, holy shit, do they get a lot of money for this stuff? So, you know, to answer your question, as an amputee, if I'm online and I'm going to the manufacturers and I find a foot that I like, and let's say I already have my socket that goes on my residual limb, I've got all my hardware, it's literally a foot swap, right? Like, I just want to buy this foot and I want to use it and I want to have it on my prosthetic. There is only one company that you can call up and do that with. One out of all the prosthetic manufacturers. That company's Levitate. Levitate makes blades for high active amputees like myself, so they make like running blades.
Yep.
For like cardio training and running and marathons and all that great stuff. They are the only company that I'm aware of that you can call them up or go on their website, order their prosthetic device, and it comes in a kit that you can do yourself, right? So again, I'm very fortunate to have one of their products. Heather Abbott Foundation, which is a nonprofit out of Rhode Island, had purchased that for me. Super grateful, super nice product. Every other manufacturer, if you want their prosthetic device and you like their design, you have to go through a registered prosthetist, and there is no commercially available pricing.
Really?
None. Like, you will not find pricing. You might find a little community board where somebody's like, oh, hey, I bought that foot and I saw my insurance paperwork and it was XYZ. That does not mean that's an accurate reflection of what the foot will be for your scenario. And furthermore, you don't know until you find the registered prosthetist to go through. So, as you can imagine, for somebody like myself, beyond frustrating, right? Like, I'm more than capable of unbolting a foot and bolting another one.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time that I have to consider doing that is now a ride to Boston for me. And, you know, that's a little bit of an abnormality. Most people try to find a prosthetist that are like right in their backyard. And there's some great places on Cape, but I prefer to work with the people who I'm working with. So, you know, in order to do that, I have to go to Boston. But yeah, it's just crazy to me. It's crazy to me that like such a crucial component that you rely on to live out your life every day, you have no control over. You have to go through a third-party company. And I hope that's something that changes in the future. But I'm not very optimistic. So that's the first thing. You know, accessibility to these products,
Mm-hmm.
being able to plan accordingly is very, very difficult. And then the second issue is just that the price seems absurd. I mean, like, you know, these feet go, an entry-level foot is $5,000, you know. Some of the fancier ones are with powered ankle units and things can easily exceed 15, 20 grand. And that's just one aspect of what makes a prosthetic device. You still have the socket, the spacers, the liners, the socks. I mean, it's just so expensive. Um,
And insurance only covers so much, and I'm sure you're only
yeah,
allowed.
everybody's insurance is different, you know, so I can't speak on that globally, but yeah, there's all sorts of rules in place. They'll only cover X amount of sockets per year. They'll only cover X amount of consumables. Um, so yeah, it's an uphill battle for sure in terms of sourcing your devices.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's like I don't know. As you know, I started doing like a lot of work in amputee community and like working as a support system for other people. You know, it is so critical that early on you find a prosthetist that you trust, that you have a good relationship with, that you can work with, and it'll hear your complaints, because this stuff, there's no roadmap for it, you know. I would argue that my prosthetist is probably one of the best in the States, and I mean, even he struggles with my fitment and the things that pop up. So like, you have to have a good relationship with these people, and especially with how difficult they make it to procure some of the products you need just to stand again, you know.
Yeah, and especially you're active. You need to be mobile. Your business. I mean, you've reinvented yourself a few times. With the
Mm-hmm.
business. This I feel is just another reinvention of who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, it's just a chapter. That's
It is, and like I've said this before. Everything happens for a reason. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know what lesson that needed to be learned. But I mean, maybe this was supposed to happen because you're supposed to be helping other people that are in the same situation. And like I know in November, you're potentially, or you're doing a boxing match, correct?
yeah, yeah. So I'm fighting. There's a great organization. Ryan Roach is the founder of Punch for Parkinson's.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so Ryan is the nephew of Freddie Roach, who's extremely famous and talented boxing trainer, boxing coach. And Freddie has Parkinson's. Um, it's a movement that's I feel like everybody at this point. I feel like everybody has had some type of connection with the Parkinson's disease.
Yep.
Whether it's a friend or family member, I mean, it's right up there with cancer, man. I mean, it touches a lot of people. And Ryan wanted to be active in that community, and he saw how beneficial boxing training can be for those people.
Mm-hmm.
So he founded Punch for Parkinson's, which is a nonprofit that puts people battling Parkinson's and MS into boxing gyms with quality trainers. You treat them like fighters, and they just train them to work on their coordination, their hand-eye movement, and in a lot of the studies, it's shown a reduction in symptoms by 30%.
Wow.
It's really, it's amazing. They had a situation with a woman who started her lessons, her personals, on a walker. And within a couple months, she progressed from, well, I think it's progressed, however you want to look at it. She went from a walker to a cane, to the point where, she was standing and walking without any ambulatory aids. And she credits a lot of that to the mobility that boxing gave her. And it was funny, in January, when I started my recovery, for those of your listeners who don't know, my amputation was last November. It was November 8th of 2022, and then January 23rd of 23, I got my first prosthetic. So I mean, I haven't been on a device very long. But in January, when I started my recovery process, the first thing I did was I walked into the boxing gym, Lee and Cello Boxing and Fitness. It's in the same complex as my shop. And I asked him if he would help me with like a more rigorous approach to physical therapy because the physical therapy that I was receiving was great care, but it was just commercial physical therapy. It wasn't pushing me nearly as hard as I wanted to be pushed.
Mm-hmm.
So I found Chad. I started training in his gym. He took me under his wing. And I fell in love with boxing. And Chad's actually the one who introduced me to Ryan Roach and his movement with the Punch for Parkinson's organization. So having firsthand seen the magic of boxing and what it did for my recovery, when he started talking about what it does for people with Parkinson's and MS, I was like, well, yeah, fucking of course it does. I've seen it firsthand. I know it does.
Yeah.
But, that's a different perspective that most people don't have, and an understanding that most people don't have because not everybody boxes. So, yeah, he runs an annual fight. This year it's held at Big Live at TD Garden in Boston. It's November 5th, which is a Sunday. Starts at about 4:30. And I think he's planning on having about 15 bouts that night.
Oh, nice.
So it's a charity event. There's going to be a good group of us out there putting on a show to raise money for his organization and for the people that are fighting on behalf of Parkinson's. And I'm really looking forward to that one. It's on a personal level too. It's it's on November 5th, so it's 3 days before the 1 year anniversary of my amputation. So being able to show that, I had this traumatic experience. I lost part of myself that I'm never going to get back, but it doesn't define you,
right.
at all. And I'm a walking testament to that. No pun intended, right?
Yeah, right.
It's like I looked at the situation and the boxing thing, as much as it was for my health, it was also to prove to myself that, I could have something happen and it's not going to slow me down. I can still pick up new things. I can still excel at things. I can still be good at things. It just requires a slightly different toolbox. That's it.
Yeah, it just changes the way that you're doing things a little bit. That's all.
Exactly. I mean, like you said, you've known me a long time. Prior to this, I don't think I ever stepped foot in a gym in my life. I was always active. Coming from the trade industry, you're always on your feet. You're always on the go.
Yep.
So my regular job always had me active. And then outside of that, I'd go hiking, do a little bit of exploring and occasional running, but that was it. So to come out of this whole situation and essentially get a new lease on life, it's really what they gave me. The amputation really did. It gave me my freedom back. So I wanted to take full advantage of that. That's where the fitness aspect of everything I've been doing has come from.
Nice. And just real quick to touch down, tickets for this event that you're going to be doing?
Yeah, so I don't think they're going to be available on Ticketmaster, so the Punch for Parkinson's event, and all the fighters are going to have tickets for sale as well.
Okay.
They haven't been released to us yet. We have our first sparring day in August. I believe it's August 8th, where, we meet our competitor and we do a promotional sparring event.
Sure.
And I think we're going to get all of our ticket information, right around that time. So the next week or two, we should have ticket information available. I really don't know what the price point is. I believe last year was $75.
Yeah, but it's going, even at $75, you're going to watch 15 fighters fight, and you're donating to a fantastic cause. I mean,
if you haven't tried, anybody who's unfamiliar with it and all the amazing stuff that Ryan's doing, definitely check it out. Punch for Parkinson's is an amazing organization. It's always doing crazy giveaways. It's definitely something I encourage everybody to check out because it's a great way for them to contribute to an amazing cause and get something out of it too.
Yeah, no, that's That's great. I'm looking forward. I mean, I'm planning on coming out for it. So I,
Yeah, you don't get a choice. I'll drag you out.
yeah, right. Yeah, I've got no excuses. What else are you doing? What else are you doing in November? Nothing. I mean, that's New England.
Yeah, right. Seriously, I'm gonna go. Hopefully, not get the shit kicked out of myself, and then celebrate my mom.
Well, if you need somebody to come over and just punch on you for a bit, I can.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd love to add that to my regimen.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been training, and my buddy's been coming over and just beating on me for a bit.
Yep, you sound like my coach.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know
Shout
what?
out, Chad.
Yeah, that's awesome because that's what a motivator does for you, and getting into that mindset and having people around you that are of that same mindset, and moving forward, and really putting yourself, because dude, in under a year, you've had your leg amputated, life changing. Had to adjust your business to that. Decided to pick up fitness in the form of boxing, and here you are, less 3 days shy of your amputation. You're going to be boxing for Parkinson's in a charity event. Like,
Right.
dude, that's, if you really sit back and think about it, that's pretty fucking amazing.
And may I just bring out the fact that I feel bad for whoever I'm fighting. Like, it's a charity event, but like, bro, lose for you. If I win, you got your ass kicked by a dude with one leg, and if I lose, then you beat up the guy with one leg. Like,
Yeah.
I win either way, man. I'm just there for a good time, though.
Yeah.
No, I am taking it serious. But yeah, no, it's funny when you look at it through a different lens. You know what I mean? Like, I'm appreciative that my competitor is willing to go toe to toe because a lot of guys would look at my situation, not even step in the ring.
So just so we're clear, you're not fighting another amputee, correct?
No, I'm fighting somebody that's in my weight class. So, I'm fighting 190 pounds. That's where I want to land. 189, 190, and that's what I'm going up against.
That's a good fighting weight.
Yep.
I'm about double that. So.
Yeah, I came out of the surgery 240, and I'm down to 190 now.
Good for you, man. That's awesome.
So 50 pounds in 4 months is what I lost.
Yeah, it's amazing that, and especially after having surgery, and because there is a time where you can't do anything. You're just waiting, and that's when you put on the, me. I'm an emotional eater, and
right.
I eat shit.
Boredom gets me, dude.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sitting around waiting.
Like, when you're sitting in bed and you have nowhere to go, like you've watched everything conceivable on Netflix, like what do you do?
Yeah,
spend $5,000 on DoorDash.
Yeah, they're there every night for you. They're providing a service
multiple times, lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
This is absurd.
Yeah, we love this guy. He's a frequent flyer.
Yeah, man. Something that you just said resonated with me, and that's another thing that's like worth definitely mentioning. So, like you said, emotional eating, right? Like, and you had also mentioned, like, after surgery, like, there's a point in time where you can't do anything, right? That was probably one of the biggest fallacies I told myself, I think, during the recovery. Like, I didn't have a prosthetic, therefore I can't do anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was just like, that was me 1,000% behind myself. And I think we all do that. Like, we want an excuse to not do the hard work, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. What's the easy, and that's that easy way out, that cop out attitude. It's not a positive attitude, and you're cheating yourself.
Yeah, it gets you nowhere. Absolutely nowhere.
No, it's and no, man. I'm happy that you're doing this and that you found, because like I said, we've known each other for quite a while, and seeing you and how you've changed in areas that, dude, I don't know how I would handle an amputation, but you're giving people out there that, have either that can relate to you, that have had it or have to have one. Hopefully this gets out to people. Any other fellow amputees. There's a bunch of people listening right now. I don't know who some of them are, but again, hopefully this is getting out there and giving somebody a little bit of positive. Like at the end of this talk, if anybody says to me, "Well, I don't really think I can do that," like, you know what, you need to listen to this talk that I just had with my friend Brandon, because there's a lot of shit you can do. It's just you got to be willing to get out of that mindset, and
Oh,
be.
absolutely, man. Like, um, just to extend on your point, like I am not special in any way, shape, or form. I'm just a regular ass dude.
Well, you and I are fucking special.
What was that?
I said you and I are fucking special, just in a
Oh,
different
yeah,
way.
we're special, all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in regarding, regarding like the whole amputation thing, right? Like, it was the decision wasn't hard. It really wasn't, right? Like I had already suffered for 3 years at this point. Like, um, just I'm trying to think of like the best way to frame this. Um, you knew my dad was like very sick all through my childhood.
Yep.
So my dad was disabled literally my entire life, right up until his passing. So, my childhood, I have no complaints about my childhood, but I didn't have the like go outside and play ball with dad. And that was like, I think that was the hardest thing over the past 3 years, was like not being able to go outside and do those fun things with the kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like not being able to play in the grass, not being able to like go to an amusement park and walk around, because after 300 feet I was just smoked. Like losing out on all that. That was like my biggest motivator for pursuing the amputation, because when I went into Dr. Carty's office and I told him what my complaints were, what my reservations were, and where I wanted to be, I mean, he was like, yeah, no problem. We'll have you running. We'll have you jumping. We'll have you hiking. Like, we have patients that are doing all these things. So, like, the decision was really not hard. It's just the work. You got to put the work in. And, like, nobody's going to do the work for you. And, like you said, there's quite a few people listening right now. If there are any other amputees or, like, people struggling with their own physical ailments and, whatever that looks like for them, there's no such thing as too much PT. There's no such thing as, taking advantage of gym memberships or personal trainers. Like, just because your doctor gives you a prescription to go see somebody twice a week doesn't mean that that's all you need or that's all you should be doing. Like,
right.
At the end of the day, whoever you're working with, your trainers, your physical therapists, your physicians, none of them can do the work for you. You have to step up and, put the effort in.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's you get in what you get out what you put in. Like if you're gonna put it in 50%, then you're gonna get 50% out. You put
Absolutely.
put 100% in, you're gonna get 100% out. I mean, that's just the way things are. And that carries over into everyday life and anything that you do. Like it's like with plumbing, like and like you could do half-ass, and you're gonna do half-ass work. Well, you're not gonna have people coming back to you and being happy about doing half-ass work. Like, oh, what the fuck? Like, this guy just did this, and I paid him, and it's not really nice. And no, but you can do, put your heart into it, and really give them a good product, and like, holy shit, this is awesome. And then it's like word of mouth, and again, it's a good thing. It's positive. But
Absolutely.
no, so I'm the where you're at. I'm really looking forward to seeing where things are going to go for you, because I just feel like you're such a driven individual when it comes to succeeding and proving things to themselves. Um, yeah, I'm looking forward to your journey. It's
I
been
appreciate that, man.
it's pretty been remarkable. And I remarkable is a pretty big word, and I don't like using it a lot. But this instance, I think this is again, it's a remarkable journey that you've been on, where you're going. Not only with the car stuff, that's just a whole nother awesome thing you have going on in your life. And it's awesome that you still enjoy doing that stuff because it's like,
It's most days.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I get it. It's like, you have, your job, and you have a career. You decided to
Right.
make the cars, your career. That's what you do. It's, not it doesn't define you, but it's, a huge part of your life. And,
Right.
now I see you with, the amputation and then the boxing and all the stuff that you're doing. It's like, okay, where's this going to go for him? Because
Right.
I think it's gonna, I think it may change the way that, maybe what you're doing. And you were talking about prosthetics. My thought when you were talking about that, I'm like, this motherfucker is going to start his own prosthetic company.
It's definitely something that's on my radar, man, because people need an affordable solution, and there's not a lot out there in the way of it.
No, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, you're such a mechanical person, and you can take thought to paper, and then from paper and execute and come out with some pretty awesome shit. I mean, there's nobody else is really doing what you're doing when it comes to the car thing. I mean,
I
that's
appreciate that, man.
yeah,
I
no,
try to carve out my own little unique thing. I mean, there's a lot of guys in the industry and a lot of different ways to cut that pie.
there are, and a lot of them are snake oil salesmen. And that's, and I'm not knocking any, I'm not knocking the industry. I know, I've been around it long enough and see what other people go through, and have conversations with folks like you, folks like Steve, who have really been around in just the just the that cookie cutter shit is I guess what I want to call it. Where it's just mass produced, it's crap. It may, I'm not going to shit on people for being into that stuff, but it's like, don't you want to be unique and have your
Right.
own thing and like not be like the rest of the people out there?
Right. But what age do we live in? Right.
Yeah, I
We
know.
live in the age of instant gratification.
I
So
I know. We carry
you've
around a
got
yeah.
two avenues, right? You jump on YouTube and you get all your answers, and you go out and you copy what somebody else has already paved the way to do, or you take the hard route. You figure it out. Most people don't want to do that.
Yeah, they want it. Well, that's it seems to be like a generational thing. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not knocking the younger generations, but like us, the Gen X generation, like we're fucking hard nosed. You
Right.
put your nose to the grindstone. You carry forward. You move on. You may have. I mean, I've failed plenty of times in life, and
Right.
you gotta put your pants on the next day, put your boots on. You still have to go out and you have to make a living and you have to live. It's
Right.
just how many times you're willing to fall down, then get back up, and then okay, maybe I'm not going to fall down as much, but I'm still going to fall down. You're still going to have shortfalls and failures, but it's I think growing as a person, and like I said, that the age group we're in, it's just a little bit different with the younger kids because, like you said, instant gratification. Fuck, I mean, you carry around a computer in your hand with access to knowledge that like you can look anything up and have an answer, and it's like I remember 15 years ago before these things were really a big deal. The phones, it was like, yeah, you texted and stuff on it, but you weren't like doing interactive things and checking social media and connecting with people on social media.
Right.
I mean, that's, I guess that's the plus side to this, the instant gratification slash the era we're living in. There is some cool stuff that does come about it. um
Right.
where you have fan interaction on Instagram with, people that follow you or whatever, or, people posting stupid shit and it's just, you get a laugh out of it. It's like, that's the stuff I enjoy. But,
Sure.
no, getting back on topic, let's, I guess, so right now things are going in a positive direction for you. You have some good things going in your life.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, what do you, what direction are you going in now? Like, what do you see for yourself in the future?
My biggest thing is just getting back to the automotive stuff now that like I've got the physical capacity to be in the shop for like full days. I'm just eager to get back to where I left off. I want to finish. I want to finish this Monte Carlo and start making passes again. I've got some great products that are in the fire with a couple more applications that we're going to start supporting. So there's a lot going on. Um, as you can imagine, I got quite the backlog after being down for several months, but making the best of it.
Mm-hmm. In the new shop, you enjoy the new shop. It's
I love my shop.
yep.
All my neighbors in here are fucking awesome. My landlord's a super chill guy. It's like there's 22 units in here, and it's like I don't know. I'm just blessed to be surrounded by really, really good people.
Yeah, that's critical, as you know, not only
Right.
for a successful business, but to be personally successful, you have to be around decent people, good people,
Absolutely.
positive people, like having your boxing coach in the same facility, how far down is he? A couple doors from you?
Yeah, exactly. He's like 4 or 5 units down. So,
And what's awesome is
what's that?
accountability. Him being there, you have to be you have to go by that motherfucker every day.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean? So there's
Yeah.
like, you're not cutting a corner or like, yeah, I'm just not going to do this today. Like, I'm sure he holds you accountable, which is all part of that training process.
Right. And his mentality too, and what he asks of people, like you're in there to work, and he expects you to work, right? But he's also a realist, and he doesn't expect that you're going to turn into a pro fighter overnight. The only thing he asks of everybody that goes in there is he wants to see a 1% improvement by the time you leave every day. And like, I don't know, that just really resonated with me because that runs parallel with the recovery. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, you're going to have shit days where it doesn't feel like you made any progress, but you did. I guarantee if you got up and you tried and you put some effort in, you at least accomplished 1%.
Yep.
So that his philosophy regarding progress like really runs parallel to my own philosophy through the recovery, if that makes sense.
It does. And that in setting goals, like realistic goals with 1% progress.
Right.
That is a huge mental thing. You know what I mean? That mentally, that is so good because people set up unrealistic goals. Like, oh, I'm coming in here and I've been lifting weights and I'm going to be bench, I'm doing 250, but by the time I'm done next week, I'm going to be doing 350. It's like, no, you're not, motherfucker.
No,
Like,
you did 285 and now you got an injury.
yeah,
Congratulations.
exactly. Like everything, but that again, that's part of how we were brought up. That type of mindset. Again, we're not looking for, you know, the $150 million payout. I'll be happy with the $150 payout.
Right.
Like it's something. You need to. You need to walk before you can run.
Absolutely.
And I'm not saying that because can you run now? How is it with this foot?
Dude, so I haven't run with this BioDAP one, but with my Levitate blade, I absolutely love it. My only limiting factor is my wind.
Yep. Yeah, your cardio.
Right.
Yeah, how much do you have in the tank?
Exactly, and that's what I work on, regularly. The yeah, all in all, everything's on the up and up. Like, it's easy to get discouraged sometimes. Like, I've obviously talked to you on the phone a couple times prior to this, over the past week or so. And like,
Yep.
In addition to this foot that I'm trying out, I'm also going through my fitment process again for my new socket, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be extremely mentally draining, just because like it's never right the first shot. It's a lot of feedback, a lot of revisions before they can move to production and get you out of a test socket and go back into a carbon one. So like, the past 10 days I've lost out on training, which has definitely sucked a little bit. Like,
Yep.
Because that's my mental outlet too. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's like, when I'm stressed, I can go work the heavy bag. Like, that's great. And I haven't really been able to do that. But I can start doing it again. But like, like this week I can start getting back into the gym, which is great. But that's like just one of those examples of like, yeah, there's a hiccup. You just gotta, take it for what it is. Know it's temporary. It's not a permanent setback, and just adapt and overcome. And I think that like that can really be applied to, everything. Like that train of thought can quite literally be applied to everything in your mind, in your life. Like,
sure,
nothing is permanent. This is all temporary. And that's true for like even people experiencing financial problems. Like, you've got your entire life to make money. You'll figure it out. Like, if you're determined, you'll come out the other end. You've been there. I've been there. I don't think there's anybody tuning in right now that can't relate to having financial issues. Like, it's just...
Yeah, and especially now, everything's so fucking expensive.
Oh my God, dude. You don't got to tell me.
Yeah, we went to the grocery store, was it yesterday or the day before? We're like, Don's like, oh, we got to get stuff for lunch, for you for work, for both the boys for work. And I'm like, yeah. And then it's like, I'm like, oh my God, it's like $175. And I'm looking at like what we bought. It's like a gallon of milk, some sandwich, meat and cheese, some rolls, and like just some basic, like we had like 2 bags worth of shit.
I was just going to say, so you were walking out of the store after spending $170.
Yeah, exactly.
The 2 bags that you brought because
you
didn't want to pay their 10 cents a fucking bag.
Exactly.
We were extremely unsatisfied with the 6 items that you took.
And it's funny because like now we've learned to become more conscious about where we're buying stuff. Like, if we're buying dried goods, napkins, toilet paper, like we'll do a Costco run. Like, go to Costco. Okay, I'm gonna buy like, a case of toilet paper. Instead of paying, $6 for a 4-pack, I'm gonna spend 25 and have enough for the month.
Right.
And just doing stuff like that, and not spending a bunch of big Y. It's like it's either big Y or Stop and Shop. That's our
right.
Those are our choices, and it's like, oh, which one's more this week?
Right.
It's just it's tough, and having kids too. The boys are getting older, so their appetites also grow as well.
Right. And then they start wanting the finer things in life, right?
Yeah. Yes, I require 2 pairs of Nikes this week. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Get a job.
I brought Ryan over to my buddy's restaurant for his birthday, right? And he, out of all the things on the menu, he decides he's going to order the fucking $50 ribeye, right? And it's like, what?
Touche.
What do you think you're doing?
Yeah, he's like,
get you a kids menu real quick.
He's like, I actually love ribeye. My boys, TJ especially, like when we go out to a restaurant, like, if they have prime rib on the menu, I'm getting prime rib. I like prime rib. He's in the same boat. And it's like, I'm like, oh yeah, when he was younger, I'd be like, yeah, I'll get the king cut. And he'd be like, yeah, I'm going to get the king cut. And I'd look at him like, you serious? The first time you ordered it, I'm like, no way. But he gets it and like eats like 3/4 of it. I'm like, okay. All right. I respect you. You are a connoisseur of prime rib as well. All right. You can get the king cut. But, yeah, man. I know you got a lot going on in your life, and you know, I appreciate you for coming on here and
Yeah, definitely, man.
you know,
Anytime.
telling your story. Is the I think we're at pretty good point where we can kind of wind things down. And like I said, I know you got a lot going on, and your time is you're away from your house right now doing the podcast in your shop, so uh,
Yeah. I just got back here and still got another hour ride home. So
yeah. So I guess do you want to give a shout out or a plug to anyone? Is there anything that you want to touch on real quick?
I just appreciate you having me on. I definitely plugged all the important people. Obviously, shout out to Kat. We definitely wouldn't have been able to do any of this without her. So that's been a huge one.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, having a support group is man, that is huge.
Yeah, A1, absolutely A1. But no, man, I appreciate you, appreciate our friendship, and appreciate you giving me an outlet to share my story with your peoples.
Yeah, brother. I mean, we're gonna do this again. Maybe we'll do a live episode from the shop. Coming up. Maybe closer to the fight. We could do something to kind of talk about it and what you're doing to prepare for it and stuff, and get some more people.
That'd be great. We just got to make sure we have a chaperone because nothing good comes of you and me being left unattended.
Yeah, it's funny because those videos you sent me yesterday, I forgot about. Like, I didn't forget about it, but I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, holy shit.
And then you go down the rabbit hole and you're like, oh yeah, that one time that we slid sideways past your house during your neighbor's tag sale, or the Westfield food truck with purple and pink Camaros. Like the list just goes on and on. You're like, oh man, which ones of these can we talk about? Which ones can't we talk about?
Yeah, the evening in the Camaro was definitely I think Liam's highlight in his youth. That was a good night. That was a good times.
And then what was it? Liam and Ryan were in the Monte Carlo when I decided.
Yeah, just gonna do an e-brake slide, do a Rockford here.
60-mile-an-hour Rockford past the driveway. We'll be right back.
Yeah, pay no attention to the neighbors and the people coming in and out of their yard. It's funny because after that, those neighbors are so fucking awesome because even back to when I was, my boy's age, high school, we'd have 20 cars, 30 cars over here on a Friday night, Saturday night, because we'd all be getting ready to go drag race.
I can only imagine the shit shows that went on back then.
It was like what was crazy is my father and grandfather were the fucking instigators.
Oh, I can see that.
They'd be out there.
Absolutely can see that.
Does this burn out? Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that was a challenge. That was what that was. That wasn't just a question. That was a challenge. And
you gotta put your big boy pants on.
Yeah, exactly. And the goddamn
oh my God.
Kyle is listening to this. Shout out to Kyle LaValle and his 1968 blue GTX 440 that would do fucking insane burnouts. And I have a video somewhere of him doing donuts in an intersection, and all you can see is the taillights when you tap them. Just faint little red dots in the smoke.
That is awesome.
Oh yeah, we were stupid, but we were actually smart because we video recorded a lot of this stuff. And
you just dug out a bunch of like old VHS tapes from the street racing shit, right?
Yes, I've got some stuff. We used to go down to Service Star in Westfield. It was like a dead end road, and going drag racing down there, and then drag racing, Memorial Drive back when Memorial Drive was a thing.
It's funny because I actually was telling Sam Gove that you had found some of that footage because he found footage of us street racing down in Hartford in like 2008.
Oh, really?
He had like a whole night on camera, but it was back when he was working for like one of those production companies. So it was like, it's like the equivalent of what we have in 4K now.
Oh, nice.
Really good footage. It's pretty cool.
Nice. Oh, I'd like to check that out sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I can send you a couple of the files because he started uploading it all.
Oh, nice. I think Berlin Turnpike too. We used to go down there a lot down in Connecticut.
Yep, back in the good old days.
Yep, back when guys would actually like trailer cars and unload them in a parking lot with no lights and fucking race, and then load the shit back up and then leave.
We're such old men. We're bitching about our grocery prices and how now we used to street race with our VHS recorder.
Yeah, I have my little what the hell are they 8 millimeter? The little I had because we had my father had like the big VHS camcorder, like with like the full
Yep.
size tape that looked like a goddamn recording studio. And then I'll
Yep.
never forget the 8 millimeters came out, and it was like this thing just fits in the palm of my hand. It's like, oh, you can record very discreetly with this, and when you're doing stupid shit driving around, like, oh yeah, I'll just bring this little mini camcorder with me to record this.
And it's still the size of a brick.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
No, good times. No, I appreciate you coming on here. I appreciate the talk. Like I said,
yeah, anytime. And like I told you before, I'm really stoked about what you're doing. It's cool that you kind of found your passion. You're jumping in head first. So I'm looking forward to the next chapter of this.
yeah, this isn't a job for me. This is a I said this to people now. This is my career. This is where I want my career to take me. Connecting with people, having a positive conversation on life, listening to their struggles, and hopefully being able to relate with other people.
Definitely.
That have gone through this or are going through these issues, or listening to a stupid story about drag racing. Hopefully brought some smiles to some people's faces. But
Definitely.
yeah, man. Well, again, I appreciate you coming on here. Appreciate you doing this. And
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
yeah, no, we're and like I said, we're gonna do this again. We'll do it closer to your fight. And then we'll talk about that, and get people psyched up for that, and hopefully get some people donating to you, and hopefully some people come down and check it out.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you again, Tim.
All right, brother. Have a good night. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, you too. Later.
Later. Bye bye. Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I know it was kind of early going live here at 5 o'clock, but it was a schedule thing, and it was beneficial for my buddy Brandon. It was beneficial for me tonight to do it early. But again, if anybody follows or is on Instagram, you can follow at Please Cut Here, Brandon Furches. He's LS4 King. Furches Performance previously. His journey is very remarkable. If you tuned in tonight and heard that, he had some pretty awe-inspiring moments in his life, and a lot of hurdles that he had to overcome, and he did it, and he's doing it, and he's doing it with a positive mindset, and he's going forward and not looking back, and if anybody can take anything away from it, that's hopefully what you're getting out of this talk that we had tonight. So, next week, I've got a very special guest in the music community. So look forward to doing it again next Tuesday. We're going to go live 7 p.m. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and have a great night. Thanks.